Hey, it's amazing seeing you here. I've got a special guest with me today who's recently graduated from our flagship course, Life Mastery Achievers, and she'll be taking us through her journey on board LMA, what she was able to get from the whole experience and everything in between. So, just want to say it's a pleasure having you here. Let's just start with the first question. What's your name? Where are you currently based? And what are you currently up to?
So my name is Desi Pocklington. I'm currently based in Houston, Texas, and I am a licensed psychotherapist here.
Okay. So, I'm going to rewind time. Okay. Before you had come across our work, LMA course, Um, just if you was to just give us a glimpse, what was you experiencing in terms of issues in your life back then, and how was it showing up specifically for you?
Back then, I I had been about 2.5 years into severe burnout in my career, and had gone into it with a huge heart and huge compassion and empathy, wanting to be able to help people, um, but had become just exhausted from giving so much, and not really feeling a sense of really connectedness to myself or to my career anymore, and not feeling like um, like it was kind of bringing me what I needed in terms of fulfillment, and even in terms of just the financial aspect of it. And so, what brought me to LMA was I saw your free video,
Mhm.
and you invited us to join that weekend. And I thought, I think this could be really good for me, because I had been on a healing journey for about 24 years in my own way. Um, but what I was trying wasn't working. And so I wanted to do something different, and what you talked about really resonated with me. So that's what brought me. I wanted to heal. I wanted to grow. I wanted to try something new.
Okay, so you was on the healing journey, you said, for 24 years.
Mhm.
Wow. To recover, is it from burnout or something else?
Many years ago, when I was a very young, I was a child, at about 9 years old.
Mhm.
I had developed an eating disorder, and that lasted until I was about 24 when I went into treatment. At that point in time, I pretty much was, I had become very sick and was fighting for my life. And thankfully, I had a lot of support and good tools, and people, counselors and such, kind of cheering me on the journey, which was part of what made me eventually want to do the same for other people. And so
Mhm.
the journey started back then, when I began my recovery from the eating disorder. And I'm fully recovered from that now. But
Mhm.
then, of course, getting into the work that I do, with other people who are struggling severely, that's when the burnout started happening. So, a little bit of what they call post secondary trauma in the field, from hearing so many stories
Okay.
of pain.
So you was on this journey for a fair amount of time. At the same time, you are a psychotherapist, so you've got a lot of experience in terms of mindset, psychology. So what made you want to consider, because you came across our ad, which was advertising a free masterclass, which is about reinventing yourself. So what made you think, instead of I already know that, let me just attend it and see what it's all about? What made you consider that?
Yeah, so like I said, I would say what it is I had tried so many things up to that point. I was steeped in like really good, really high self care. I knew what that meant, I knew what that was. Um, I had had a lot of like the theories down, and of course, I was teaching people them. So that was a part of it too. But I think for me, a big part of the draw was having all of the resources in one place, and the accountability piece, because I needed to have some structure. I am very ambitious in some ways, but I'm also kind of a whirling dervish. And so I knew I needed some structure and some tethering and something to be accountable for, and a place where everything was kind of in one space. um, in order to kind of just create that focus that I needed, I think, to be able to move through and to eventually find that breakthrough that I was seeking.
Okay. When you came across our advert, was that the first time you've ever heard about our work?
Yes.
Okay, so it was totally brand new, and you attended the introductory seminar, which was free. And of course, during that webinar, you had the chance to go and learn further from us on board the LMA course. If you were to be honest, did you have any hesitancy or fears that was lurking in the background before making that investment? And if so, what ended up putting that to rest for you?
Yeah. Totally did. I totally did. I had seen your advertisement maybe several times before I decided to kind of jump in.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, I'm sure that you've seen other advertisements on YouTube
Yeah.
where there's this lovely speaker in this beautiful place, and I'm like, is this a real thing? I don't know, but there was something about your just your, who you are, your person that spoke to me, and I thought, I don't know why, but I feel like digging in and seeing what's here. And so that's when I listened to the free webinar. And at the point that you had offered for us to join LMA, again, some hesitancy because I was like, this is really good stuff, but I don't know. And I think a big part of my hesitancy, though, was number one, I wondered if I had it in me to commit because of the burnout. And
Mm,
number two, there was a piece of it was the finances. I knew it was a large financial investment at the time, and I had cut back quite a bit on work just to try to recover.
mm,
But it was an intuitive thing. I was just like, I did a check with my spirit and said, is this something that I should do? And there were no qualms. It was just like a green light. So I said, okay, we're jumping in. We're going to see where this goes.
okay. So your fears was around the fact that do I really have it in me to do this because of the burnout related symptoms you had?
Mhm.
So what ended up really putting that rest for you other than your intuition? Was it something that a case study we showed you, or was it something I said? What ended up putting that for rest for you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, this it might sound funny, but I remember when they were doing the Q and A's, and you guys were doing the Q and A's, and the people were typing in questions. You were taking them, and one of the people said something like, what if I'm not able to commit to this? And you said, then don't do it. And you were very like pointed and very real. And once again, I think something inside of me said, this is the type of coach slash program that I needed because that's exactly where I was. I didn't want to be the one saying, what if I can't? But I
Mm,
was feeling it. I was feeling the resistance inside. But when you said, then don't, I don't know what it was, but something kind of clicked and said, well, Desi, where are you with this? Do you want to grow? Do you want to commit? Are you willing to dive in if you do it?
mm.
Um, yeah, so that's what it was for me. It might sound funny, but that's what it was.
Okay. So you ended up taking that leap, following your heart essentially, and you joined us on board LMA. You got involved with the online community, the LMA family. What would you say overall initially when you made that decision and you joined us and got involved with the work? What made you feel the happiest about that decision? What did you experience that made you feel like, yeah, I want to continue on this journey?
My gosh, what made me the happiest, I would say, is just the connection that I found in the LMA family. The fact that there were other such very well intended um, people who wanted to see a shift or a change in their own lives, and the fact that they were so vulnerable with it. Um, I think that's what made me the happiest because I think a part of the fear of me even approaching it or wondering if I could in the first place, yes, it was burnout, yes, it was tiredness, but it was also like this shift for me. I knew deep down it's going to take me kind of opening my heart and allowing aspects of myself that I've never wanted to be exposed. And to
Mm,
see other people able and willing to do that on a daily basis, just it did bring me a lot of joy because I said, this is where healing or like breakthrough happens.
So you had some burnout, essentially symptoms you're saying, and I think some people tuning in right now, maybe to relate to it, we do sometimes get people who are struggling with sometimes chronic fatigue syndrome or some form of adrenal fatigue. So they may be curious to know from yourself, how did you, knowing that you had some of the burnout symptoms, actually manage to show up for yourself? And what did you do in terms of your schedule to make that happen?
I I committed. I remember you saying, in commitment is power at one
Mm.
point. And I kind of laugh because I am usually, and you may be able to see this just hearing me, but I'm usually such a gentle, kind of go with the flow soul.
Right.
But like I said, there was something in me that said, gentle and go with the flow is beautiful and it's good. And I love that about myself, but I'm needing something more. So I committed, and I chose to set alarms on my phone to remind me of the daily activities that I needed to do. A lot of the things that you recommended that first week, I just chose. I dedicated myself to it. I did it even when I didn't feel like it. Like, let me be honest about the lives. I didn't start even beginning to become slightly comfortable approaching that until middle of week 6, which was just last week.
Middle of week 6. Wow.
Yeah. And so I was on there every day, just like,
Mm.
like my insides were like, I want to escape,
Mm.
and it took so much to approach, but I did it. And by the time middle of week 6 came and I started to be able to kind of get it more into that trusting mindset, I was like, okay, maybe for some of us it takes some time and a lot of elbow grease, but this stuff works. Yeah.
Okay. So, in terms of the modules, different modules you've experienced, week 1, inner power mastery, beautiful state activator, clarity, purpose, roadmap, and so forth. What would you say overall? Which module did you find the most beneficial for your case, and why?
Good question. Um, okay, I honestly, all of them have been in their own ways, but if I had to choose one, I would say week 5, which surprised me in a way because I don't know why, but I just didn't expect the talking about the abundance to impact me or to kind of hit me as hard as it did. Um, and I think one of the reasons why specifically for me is part of that lesson was actually, it wasn't just about making money and stuff like that, but it was about how our mindset can affect all areas of abundance in our life, like, so including our relationships. And one thing that stood out was what you said about how resentment can be restrictive. And so I began to kind of take a look at some of the areas in my life where I was holding some resentments, and I knew that I had, because honestly, I think that was part of my burnout, just holding on to some anger. And I was able to actually make some breakthroughs in that area, which has already created just a sense of peace, which I would consider huge abundance. What do we have in life if we don't have a sense of peace of mind? And then the other piece was better relationships, better connection. And in this case, it was with my mother, which has always been very important to me. And then, like I was mentioning earlier, some synchronicities have begun to happen just in terms of kind of rubbing elbows or getting to know some people in other fields of interest that might be helpful for me.
Okay, nice. I think a lot of people will be interested to know, because of your level of experience as well as how many years you spend in healing. How does, because there's a lot of journeys out there, a lot of courses out there, and so forth, a lot of material out there. What makes LMA different, essentially, from what you've gone through so far? How does this course differ?
Such a great question again. I would say something that I really appreciate about LMA is, and this is probably coming from that um, psychological background. I like that a lot of what you teach and a lot of what you offer is neuroscience based. So it's not, um, there is a lot of encouragement, there is a lot of support, but there's also a lot of research and science that goes into it. There's a lot of research into seeing, how can this be helpful if it's used in your life, and there's a lot of you give a lot of like practical ways in which to incorporate this through like the challenges every week that we do. So I would say that's huge. And then the fact that there's that accountability, that daily accountability to ourselves and to the group.
Okay. This is going to be one of the final questions. So just before I ask that, I just want to say, like I said on the final call, it's not definitely not the end, but definitely not the end between you and I because we got the retreat coming. But but it is just a new beginning, right? LMA is not so much like a journey like that just comes to an end. It's a lifestyle, and we've got to really upkeep it as a habit. So it's been a pleasure taking you through a journey. And it's going to be a pleasure to just keep on going through this, mastery level repetition with you. The final question is going to be for somebody watching this right now who maybe just come across our work for the first time as well. Um, what advice would you give to somebody who's currently sitting on the edge right now, possibly considering giving LMA a try, but they're not quite sure just yet? Having gone through this yourself, what would you say to them?
My first thought is just jump in. Like, I know that that's, I know that that may sound like something very, I don't know, very direct to say at the outset or at the gate.
Mm.
But if you're currently looking for a big shift in your life to happen or a big change, or if the way that Tim puts it, you're looking to reinvent yourself, this is a course that can work for you. I mean, it's like I said earlier, it's neuroscience based. So you're not going to get fluffy stuff here. You'll have weekly accountability. You have an encouraging and supportive community that, when you're vulnerable, they look at you and they're like, good job. It's hard, but you're doing good work. And it is challenging, but um, it's not without massive amounts of love and support.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.